Hi, it's Simon Lovell here again, and welcome to this first video on expert positioning. Now I want to tell you a little bit of a story to get going. I was an overweight bullied teenager and I decided to change it all and become a personal trainer. And I was no different from any other personal trainer in the gym. I actually spent less time on building my qualifications and more time learning about marketing. But I ended up becoming a nationally recognized expert. I generated a six-figure book deal with HarperCollins and then went on to sell my own products online, and now I generate regularly a great income online and help other experts to do the same. Why am I telling you this? Well, because I want you to do exactly the same thing. Now, a part of this process of why I've got to where I am now was because of expert positioning and elevating my profile and positioning myself above everyone else and all of my competitors. And I'm going to tell you today exactly the process so that you can also do this for yourself. Now, it was a 10-page ebook on my website that generated me that six-figure book deal with HarperCollins. And hadn't I put in the steps to elevate my expert positioning, it really wouldn't have happened that way. So what are the steps that you could put into place? And also I'm going to tell you a little trick which most people miss out on. So the first thing to do, let's say we wanted to get into the local press. The first thing to do would be to write a press release, maybe on the top 10 tips. So for me, that would have been top 10 tips on belly fat. And then you present your press release to the media. And so the difference here is that you're not trying to promote your product or service, you're giving away good information. So have a think about the top 10 tips that you could offer to your local press. Another way that I generated media coverage was to use my clients' case studies. So if I had a great result with some great weight loss, then I would build the story around the struggles that client had. Obviously I'd get permission, and then we'd build a story because newspapers love people's stories. So if you can link your product or service to a case study, that's really a fantastic position for you to get into the local media. Now the next step is to obviously follow up. So you want to be following up at least a couple of times with a journalist who is specific to that area in the newspaper or magazine. Okay? Now, mindset is a big thing with entrepreneurs because a lot of time you may be thinking, well, why would this magazine or newspaper want to feature me? Well, the truth of the matter is that they're looking for stories all the time. They're looking for people's stories, they're looking for tips, they're looking for advice, so that they can share that with their readers. So don't think for a second that you can't build a story around your business and then present that in a way where you're the expert, and then you can have a link back to your website, your company name can be mentioned, and then you can start using that in your marketing. And this is a key step that most people get wrong. Once you get the media, okay, in the local newspaper, maybe it's a trade magazine, maybe it's national press, maybe it's local radio, maybe it's TV, local TV. You want to leverage that with everything else you're doing. And this is the biggest mistake I see experts, coaches, entrepreneurs making, is that they don't leverage it on their website. So say for example, you get featured in your local newspaper. You want to then use that on your website as featured in, and then use the logo and brand of that publication, radio show, TV show on your website. Use it on your flyers, use it in your email signature, everywhere, because then that lifts and elevates your positioning above everyone else. Okay, now what I've actually done for you is below I've linked to a press release which I used, which got me national coverage and also local coverage. Now, what was the story? Well, here was a simple idea I came up with. The Olympics were coming up, it was years ago, and I thought to myself, how can I get myself into the local paper and the national press with a story around the Olympics? And I thought to myself, well, kids is a good topic, Olympics is a good topic, so I came up with this idea that actually children should be put in front of a TV. Okay, most of the time kids shouldn't be put in front of a TV, but I thought kids should be put in front of a TV when the Olympics are on, because it actually promotes them to watch a varied selection of sports, which would then motivate them to want to exercise and get fit. Now, can you see how that's turning a topical issue, which is children in TV, using something else at the Olympics which was coming up and building that into a story. Okay, so you just need to think creatively about how you can build stories around things that are happening at the time, but also providing and positioning yourself as an expert. So what does this do? Well, of course, it positions you as the expert, so then they quote you, which means that you can get links back to your website and your business name mentioned. But then if you do this repeatedly, it's just going to be that process whereby people are just constantly seeing your name all the time. And then I can use myself as featured in Daily Telegraph or the local press, and then I can start leveraging that. Now with radio, something that you can do, if for example a radio host was saying that they wanted to get fit, I would literally phone up the radio station and say, can I come in and talk about your fitness and give you some tips? And they love that kind of stuff. Again, I know that this is maybe a different industry, but how can this apply to you? And how can you really build this in? Once you've got some local press, this will give you confidence to then approach the national press. And really it is a case of banging on the door as many times as you can. Yes, there are going to be times when you send a press release, you chase it up and it doesn't get featured. But the more times you put out different press releases, the chances of you getting featured is just going to constantly increase. Don't go sending a press release which is, this is my business, this is my service, this is what I want to offer, because it's going to get thrown in the bin. Build content, build tips, 7 ways to X, or how to X, or 7 secrets to X, okay, and fill in the gaps. And this way, just repeatedly, you're going to be positioned as the expert. Another good thing to do is if you read something in the press and you want to react to it, this is good too, but you have to be very quick. Okay, so maybe there's a national story and you're reading it thinking, I'm passionate about that. Well, that's the time to make a phone call. You might even not need a press release at the time. Make a phone call to the journalist. It's normally written in the magazine or newspaper who the journalist is, and actually this would be more about a newspaper or a radio show. Get on the phone and say, I'd like to react to that story, and that way they'll get you on the call if it's a radio show, maybe even TV, and that way you are going to be able to get coverage. Now, 2 great resources I want to give to you are findatvexpert.com, and that's Claire Richmond's service, which is great. You just simply sign up. I think it's about £100 a year, and then the media will find you as an expert. Okay, and then you might get featured on TV. Another one is expertsources.co.uk. Now, if you're outside of the UK, you just need to find similar services, but there are people who are looking for experts, and that's a great thing for you too. Now, one thing I would say with local media is chances are you're not going to get an influx of business. It just doesn't work that way. Nationally, it can be slightly different. But with local press, it's just more about using that to elevate your profile, use that on your website, so when you do get business come to you, they can see, well, actually, this is someone who's been respected and been featured in the press. Now, this is going to really help when you want to have an online product, because you are going to, again, elevate your profile, so when people want to buy your product, it's just going to lift you up, enable you to charge more for your products. So in the next video, I'm going to be talking more about this and actually take you through a sales letter and how to position yourself when you're selling a product or service online. So I'll see you in that next video.